Hello, everyone. Welcome to Fermented Fiction. Thank you for tuning in yet again to listen to our stupid voices sounding really, really smart about books and beer. Don't believe me? Hang around and find out.
Sign up for our Patreon so that we can get a makeup artist in here.
That's right. Yeah, then my face will be like glowing.
Yeah,
Oh my god, Jeremy.
Please, Jeremy.
Sloppy drunk.
Oh my god.
Yep.
Okay, so we're back here in the studio that is Colin's attic. We're here with Colin Poynton. He's gonna give you his thumb. We're here with Jeremy Hudson. There he is. We're here with Travis Vermullen, me, Clay Vermullen. And we're going to talk about some books, movies, shows. They're all going to be in the genre fiction categories. And we're going to debate them. Then we're going to talk about how we really feel. But first, we're going to do a little personal update. Travis, what's going on?
Yeah. I found my next theater experience movie.
Okay.
On let me get my best old-fashioned 90s movie trailer voice going.
Mm-hmm.
On January 13th, starring Gerard Butler in a white knuckle action movie.
Whoa.
Plane.
What? Point Plane?
It's just called Plane.
Plane. Okay.
Mm.
I assume that's Plane, not plane as in
If you just guess
boring.
guess the synopsis of Plane and see how close you get.
Guess the synopsis.
It's Gerard Butler on
What's
a plane.
what's the genre?
It's Gerard Butler.
On a plane. Okay. Okay. Gerard Butler on a plane. I'm just guessing I'm guessing like the headline thing.
You're guessing the movie synopsis on Rotten Tomatoes. Like, what is this movie about?
Gerard Butler is a man with a dark past, who only wants to find a moment of peace, but he realizes, even in the sky, he can never be above his problems. He can never be above his dark history. He can never be above his demons.
I feel like you're vague enough that you're probably right, but the synopsis is Rhodey Torrance saves his passengers from a lightning strike.
Okay.
Only to find that he's crash landed on a war-torn island.
Okay. War-torn island.
Ooh.
How big is this island?
War-torn island.
Are we talking about like Tokugawa, Japan?
Most passengers are taken hostage by dangerous rebels. The only person to count on is Torrance. Oh, and he has been accused of murder, so he does have a dark past.
Of course he does.
Yeah.
I knew he did. I knew he did.
Come on now.
There you go. That's my next popcorn flick is Plane. That's my update.
It's not Avatar?
Yeah. What about The Way of Water?
Don't
Avatar
get me
2?
started.
I don't want to get
never
started
wanted
about
a movie.
Way of Water.
I've never wanted a movie to fail financially more in my life.
It's the cinema experience of our generation.
I do not want to talk about The Way of Water. We're not going to talk about The Way of Water.
We're going to live
Not
stream.
yet.
We're moving on.
We're-
This is my
we'll watch it
personal
and then
update.
talk about
My
it.
personal update is that I'm never watching Way of Water.
Oh my god.
Never. I'm not doing it. Don't request it on the show.
What an
Way of Water.
SFF hypocrite.
Avatar is some bullshit.
See, if
I'll say
It
it.
is
That's my
if
review.
you were Jean,
10,000 beers.
no
See-
substance. All style, no substance.
All
see
style,
now,
no
if
substance.
you were genre savvy at all, you would know that by disagreeing that hard, you're just going to see it anyway. You've seen movies. You know how this goes.
I do. I mean, I have seen it.
Yeah.
I've already seen it like 100 times. Every time they've redone Dances with Wolves or Fern Gully or whatever other version of those stories that you want to bring up, whatever the oldest one is, ever since they've done it.
Pocahontas. Yeah.
What do you think what's the oldest one? What's like the Greek one, you know?
The
You guys
Greek,
know?
the
What's
Greek
the Greek
dances with wolves,
Pocahontas?
The Greek version of
dances with Spartans.
Dances with Spartans. That's a whole different movie. That's a whole different movie that Gerard Butler is also in, but that's not what we're talking about here.
you could argue that the entirety of most Greek mythology is that general theme of man from foreign land bad.
absolutely. I mean, obviously. So, yeah, like Troy a little bit.
Hey, I
Yeah,
guess
see?
who went native in Troy?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't
Helen?
think anyone goes native.
Helen.
Helen's
That's
from Troy.
Helen's
Odyssey.
of Troy.
I don't know. Was it what, Hector? Hector
No,
went
Hector
native?
doesn't go native.
The Odyssey like 6 times. Like
Yeah.
every place Odysseus lands.
Okay.
Basically,
There we
everywhere
go.
he lands, he goes native and then he leaves.
Yeah, it's a few good chapters of the Odyssey. That's what.
Yeah, it's the best chapters of the Odyssey.
Odysseus lands, he goes native, he messes up their entire culture, and then he pieces. Like that's the Odyssey.
Colonialism in a nutshell. Yeah, Odysseus is the first colonist.
And you know what? You're absolutely right. We should cover "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou."
Yes, the best version of the Odyssey, definitively. Go Coen Brothers.
Can we make that genre fiction?
There's an old man at the beginning that predicts the future. He's blind.
I'll rewatch
He's
it.
blind.
We'll talk about. He's blind. Well, obviously that's not real. Clearly fantasy, urban fantasy.
I would like to note for the record that we are not biased against blind people on fermented fiction.
Yeah, we just know that they're magic.
Jeremy could just beep this whole part out. I am biased. If you're blind, don't want you listening to the show.
Yeah, there's
Right now.
there's no beep happening right there. That's the official stance of this show. Sick
I'm
Clay is a
kidding.
bigot.
No, I don't stand by that as a co-host.
No, I don't either. You can be blind. That's fine. If you're deaf,
Anyway,
you probably can't listen to the show anyway. So by making a medium
Wow, you're digging
that you
yourself
really
a hole
can't listen
over
to,
there.
I guess we are kind of being
Like we can put captions on YouTube.
Clayton, put the shovel.
They'll be able to
Can't
read
get
how
any of this.
bigoted you are.
All right. Whoever you are, thanks for listening. If you still are after all that, that's great.
What
What are we
Thanks,
talking
Arcane.
about?
All right. Today we're talking about Arcane, right? Yeah. We're doing Arcane right now.
What's an arcane sound?
which
Is that the sound Arcane makes?
I think it's more of a.
Manic laughter.
I think it's
Explode. Michael Bay
it's gotta
explosion.
just be
Manic girl
no.
laughter.
It's like it's the background groans of Imagine Dragons.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. That's excellent. The ad libs from any Imagine Dragons album. That's basically
It's that like breathing sound from that one really popular. That's Arcane. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
that's
That's
Arcane
good.
in
What
a
is
nutshell.
Arcane?
That's the whole synopsis.
What is
of it.
Arcane about, Clay? Tell us what Arcane's about.
You'd probably be better at this one. Honestly, you're a way bigger fan.
All right. Well, you can't. We gotta cut that.
I didn't say I don't like it.
Yeah.
You said
did-
you said
Oh
I'm
yeah,
a way bigger
you're a bigger fan. That's true. I did
So
say
we
that.
gotta cut that.
We'll
Maybe
cut
that just
that's
means that you both hate it, and that you just hate it less.
fine. Travis,
I will talk about
will you explain what Arcane?
Maybe that's a personal attack.
You know it better than me.
Arcane is a animated television series original produced by Netflix. It is based on the video game League of Legends, which I have never played and have been told not to. But it follows several of the characters who are in that game, the two primary ones being Jinx and Vi, as they are kind of split sisters in this utopian city of Piltover and its oppressed underground counterpart, Zon. There's a large cast of characters, so it's hard to say who's the main one. But definitely, like if you had to pick two, it's Vi
Vine Jinx.
and Jinx. But it follows some other politicians of Piltover who are important to the story, as well as the primary antagonist Silco. But it's a kind of a steampunk fantasy.
Mm-hmm. Definitely steampunk fantasy. Agreed. All right. So, like we do every week, we're going to roll dice. Why are we rolling dice? Because that's the game. Forced entrollment. High roll is going to defend Arcane no matter what we actually think about it. Low roll will attack Arcane no matter what the low roller actually thinks about it. And then afterwards, we'll do a couple segments with Jeremy and Colin. Then we'll all talk round table style about what we actually think about this show. So, with that, let's roll for forced enrollment.
Oh my god.
Can't lose to me today, nerd.
Travis, tell me you got a 1.
Ooh.
That's the high roll, baby.
Nat 1.
You got a 1?
Nat
I
1.
got a 3.
Critical
Whew.
fail.
Critical
Ooh.
fail.
Baby.
Boom.
I won with a 3.
You won with a 3. The first game you win, it's a nat 1 I rolled. So, all right. There's no beating, there's no losing to that. So, Jeremy, what are we going to do here?
All right. We are going to start this timer, and then you two will open up a can of non-GMO certified organic but like verbally. So we have enrollment in 3, 2, 1. Go.
Boy, am I glad. Boy, am I glad. Boy, am I glad that you rolled in that one. I am absolutely in love with Arcane. There is a reason it's a 9 out of 10 on IMDb. There's a reason it's 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. There's a reason it swept the TV awards for animation category this year, is because it is gorgeous, it is beautifully realized story, and it does so much. But the main thing I want to focus on for my opening argument is this.
My first of 7 arguments.
This show has several scenes in it that I think, so the thing for me with good animation, and Castlevania did this a couple times, but not nearly to the level that Arcane did. Good animation should make me say, this scene could not have been told in any other medium. No other medium could have captured the emotion of this scene like animation did, and like this specific animation style did. And Arcane does that throughout the series. The main one being the fight between, I'm finding their names because there's so many. The fight between Jinx and Echo, where it kind of flashes back from like the scene where they're kids and they're doing like the little pistol fight with the rubber bullet gun. And then back to when they're like adults and they're actually facing off on the bridge in this death battle. And it keeps kind of just like flickering back and forth while it's playing this soundtrack that perfectly syncs to it. I watched that and I got goosebumps. And I have watched that scene over probably 15 times because I'm like, live action, this wouldn't have worked. It would not have worked the same. It would have been jarring. It would have been irritating. Different animation styles, this would not have worked. The only way this scene works is being specifically done in the style that it's done. And the reason it works so well is because the characters in the show are so well developed that you can't stop rooting for them. Even some of the like antagonists you're still rooting for. And they're not super unique. That's the beautiful part, is they are kind of like, that's an argument I've heard made against this, that, oh, they're kind of cookie cutter characters. Like any fantasy fan has read these characters before. Tropes aren't a bad thing. This show is the proof that tropes are not a bad thing if they're done to the benefit of the story. And every character in Arcane is that. Like, yeah, they're kind of tropey sometimes. You've seen these characters before. You've read Lies of Locke Lamora. You've definitely seen these characters before. But they work so well for the Arcane story, and it gives you time to just jump right in. Like, I started watching the first 15 minutes of Arcane, and I was like, oh, I know these people. I know these people intimately, and I'm ready to follow them. And that kind of work the writers did on that back end of hardcore developing their characters before they even put a pen to this page, metaphorically, I think is what makes Arcane so good. And there's so many shows out right now that don't do that. And it was just a breath of fresh air to care about people on the first episode. Because, like, I watch a lot right now that's like, oh, I got to make it to episode 4 before I actually care about the protagonist. It's like, that shouldn't be the case. And Arcane does it in the first 10 minutes. But that'll be my first opening. I think it's got impeccable character development and several scenes in which no other medium could have captured the emotion like it did.
Yeah. I think it went the opposite direction, actually. I think the first few episodes, pretty good. Pretty good character development, especially with like the Vi's group of childhood friends. They got us all to care about them and know them really well, set up a bunch of stuff, and then they killed all of them. And took Vi and Powder away from each other and set up what was going to be like dichotomous rivalry throughout the rest of the show. But yeah, I think it started out really strong and kind of fizzled out for me, honestly, because it just turned into an action movie. It turned into a bunch of fight scenes. They were always predictable outcomes. Nobody really died that I thought wouldn't die, or vice versa. I was not surprised by a single like twist in the plot, really, beyond earlier on. And I just didn't really care for the direction that it went. I feel like it started off, all the characters were well developed and had really grounded intentions and motivations. But as it went on, those just kind of like went by the wayside. Like, I don't even remember the cop girl's name that Vi falls in love with, but she knew that character for like 2 episodes, and she chooses that character over her sister on the bridge. Kind of.
Doesn't.
Yeah, kind of does. Saves her,
No,
doesn't go with her sister. Yeah, that's what it seemed like to me as a viewer who only watched it one time, not 15. She seemed to choose her new love interest kind of over her sister. That's how it seemed to me. And I thought there was a lot of choices in that story that weren't as strong as they maybe could have been. A lot of the side characters come in and just kind of stir things up and don't really serve a huge purpose. Like the politician woman's mother comes in, and I don't even remember this much about that part of the show, but I just remember not really caring about the latter half of it nearly as much as I did early on.
I think
I don't remember it. It wasn't memorable to me.
Entirely wrong about the side characters at the beginning, because one, they establish actual care for a reason, and that's when they all do die. You actually feel Jinx's pain. They don't just say like, oh, this is a Harley Quinn character. She gets thrown in a vat of acid and now she's crazy. No, it's like, hey, we're going to establish 2 episodes of this woman actually, this little girl actually having a relationship with her sister, friends she cares about, trying the one thing she thinks she can do to save them, and killing them all. You would go nuts too. And that kind of sets up the back half of it. And then
And she ceases to grow. She ceases to grow right there.
She does not cease to grow.
Yes, she does.
Not cease
She's
to grow.
Harley Quinn the
When
rest
you-
of the story.
No. When you revisit her, she is with your antagonist, Silco. And she's definitely had this bond with her. Yeah, maybe this Harley Quinn Joker thing, but Silco's also more of a father figure. And then Vi gets reintroduced back in her life, and you see that very viscerally and physically represented dichotomy of like little bits of her old life coming in, of that little girl, but also this independent woman who's grown up like knowing that the only way out of life is violence. And that's what happens on the bridge. It's not her choosing her love, it's her seeing that she's choosing death or life to fight back against her sister later, to try and get her sister back later. Because she knew if she stepped onto that bridge to save Jinx, she's gonna die. Because Jinx is throwing frickin' grenades and blasting anybody that stands in her way. So Vi has a choice. Do I go for my sister now and die? Or do I go back to Caitlyn, which is her name, and live?
Didn't remember.
And come back
Not
to
a good
my sister
character.
later?
Maybe I'd remember her. She is a more meaningful character
1 minute.
who wasn't there just to be a love
Then
interest.
present me an argument that she's not, because she.
Vi thought that Powder died in that moment for the entire next episode. She chose her love interest over her sister. She let her sister die. She saved her new love interest. She thought her sister was dead.
This argument is not an argument for why Caitlyn's a bad character, because Caitlyn is also a fantastic character.
Weak.
You spend the 3 episodes in which you're not with.
So see, your whole argument you just finished though doesn't mean anything because I just proved the first argument I was trying to make, which is she thought she left her sister to die. She thought her sister was dead.
Yes, she did.
So she thought her sister was dead. So who did she choose? She could save one person, and who did she choose?
Her sister to die. She chose she might come back. She didn't know if her sister was dead or not.
She thought so.
She would die if she went to her sister.
And she didn't choose it. She didn't choose to save her sister. And her whole foundational character trait is that she.
And as all these characters don't mean anything, only Vi that no.
No, that's not my argument. That's not my argument.
You made that argument twice now.
No, I didn't. I think Caitlyn was not as good of a character as you think she was. I don't even remember her name. Because to me, she was just like...
That's on you.
No, you're not even letting me finish. That's not what I'm arguing. That's not what I'm arguing. My first argument, my only argument in this whole thing was that she chose her new love interest over her sister. I thought that was an unrealistic character choice, considering Vi's main whole thing in her entire life is supposed to be her sister. Didn't buy it. That was my point. But I think Caitlyn is a flat character. Overall beer of the week.
Shut up, beer of the week.
Overall beer of the week.
Beer of the week.
Oh yeah.
All right. We did it. It got heated because Travis loves Arcane.
Raised voices.
Travis loves Arcane. If you can't tell.
Ooh, baby.
I actually didn't like it. Let's ride. All right.
Oh.
You really didn't like Arcane?
No, everything I said felt that way.
Yeah.
What do we got for beer of the week?
Yeah, what
We
do we
got-
have for beer of the week?
We got Breakthrough Brewing's. Now that's what I call fresh hops. Why? Because we were supposed to be doing another movie right now, or another book where this made more sense. It doesn't make sense now, but that's okay. It's a beer, and we're going to drink it, and it makes sense in that regard.
I don't know. I feel like Imagine Dragons have been on a now that's what I call something or other.
Hey, that's fair.
Yeah.
Imagine Dragons.
That's fair.
Colin, can you find that out real quick? Has Imagine Dragons
That is
ever
fair.
been on Now That's What I Call Music? I would be shocked if they haven't, actually.
Yeah.
Be shocked.
Yeah, I mean,
That
it
is
seems impossible.
Okay, boom. Good job, Jeremy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I'm here for.
No beer shame.
Tenuously justifying our bullshit.
That title is so long to type in.
Were they did they make it on volume 63? Why are there 63?
There's so many of them. It's ludicrous.
Buddy.
Boom.
Look at this one. That's a cloudy IPA right there.
This is a very cloudy IPA.
I am still on my
It is
Advent
fresh.
calendar.
Oh yeah. What's
Smells lemony.
What am I getting?
Aw. Now that is
Believer,
Touch it.
Imagine Dragons.
knew it.
Now
Boom.
that's what I call music 63, volume 63.
Kilt lifter.
Kilt
Oh,
Lifter.
classic Kilt Lifter.
Ooh.
All the Sean Connery talk.
Oh
That's
yeah.
what I pulled
go.
out of the Advent calendar of beer. It's
Isn't that out of
Pulled a
Seattle?
Randy Lass out of that box.
Check that brewery.
Four Peaks.
Okay.
4 Peaks. There you go.
They
Okay.
are out
There's
of-
also a Kilt Lifter made by a brewery in Seattle.
4 Peaks is out of Arizona.
Fermented citrusy goodness.
Oh yeah.
Cheers, boys.
Strong citrus smell for sure.
Travis, I hope you enjoy your beer.
Pineapple-y.
I feel like you're actually upset.
Oh yeah.
No, I'm not. I don't like being told what I'm arguing. But you know.
Oh, come on.
What? No, I'm
You
just
made
saying.
the point- You made the point 3 times that there was bad character development. That's what I was attacking.
I didn't get to make the real point. But I will when we talk about what we
Oh yeah. It'll
But I would.
this is gonna go
Oh, I will.
places. I can feel it.
Welcome to the Vermolum living room.
Yes, this is what it's like.
Holiday
Oh.
with the fam.
Oh yeah.
Top Gun is the best movie ever made.
I don't think we've had that one.
What?
The Top Gun is the best movie ever made. We haven't had that
It's
debate.
not. I would never say that. I
Well,
think
no.
it's a fantastic movie.
It's one of the
You
best
just don't-
homoerotic films ever made. but
The original or
subtly.
the new one?
I don't know. I didn't watch the new one. How gay
According
is
to
it?
Tarantino.
The original is definitely very homoerotic.
Oh yeah,
The new one, less so, but they
Aw.
did play to that audience.
they played to it a little.
Well,
bit.
that's good. You don't want to lose your base.
So we got to let Colin and Jeremy do their skip before we calmly talk about
Calmly,
Oh yeah,
reasonably. You know, the thing that's going to be helped by all this beer.
I'm calm.
Calmer than you are.
I've seen
right,
you
Colin.
that calm, and then I got punched in the face.
We're going over to Colin's interesting facts. So, Colin, tell us an interesting fact about Arcane or the creators of Arcane or where Arcane came
All right. So.
That's a good beer.
from. Cheers, mate.
Cheers.
Excuse me.
So. Arcane was produced by Fortiche, a French animation studio. And they have done all kinds of work in the past, primarily like commercials, video games, that sort of thing, different, IPs, as the cool kids say. And the style that it's like hard to put your finger on. You're like, ooh, yeah, it's great because of the way it looks and the way it animation is done, and it feels realistic, and it feels like it couldn't be done in another way. That's actually the style that they use. So that studio uses this touche fortiche, which is my horrible French for the fortiche touch.
It's a mix, isn't it?
Yes. So what they do. So the studio has been doing all kinds of stuff, including like one of the projects they've done in the past, I think, is cinematics for League of Legends. And so League of Legends was like, let's keep this ball rolling. And their studio swelled from apparently 60 people to 300 plus to make this series.
Cool.
And that style that looks so good isn't just, surprise. I mean, it's like they work hard on it. And so what they do is that all of the backgrounds are 2D. So those are hand-drawn backgrounds, which is why they look so good. And then like the actual characters are 3D models that incorporate a whole bunch of 2D and 3D modeling, and I think motion capture and all that stuff. So that's how you get that style, and it's very complicated. And that's all rolled into what they've always been doing and what they are going to continue doing. It is a slow process.
Oh yeah.
And takes
That
a
makes
lot of
sense of
man-hours.
why season 2 is so slow coming. Because it'll definitely get season 2. Because it got
Well, yeah, it's sweeping the awards. So
swept everything.
Absolutely.
Yes, in another deep dive, I know that someone kept telling, a friend of Henry Cavill kept telling him to watch Arcane, and he kept putting it off. And then when he finally watched it, he didn't sleep at all. And he watched the whole season.
Oh, God.
And then kept bringing it up in like every interview he had for like The Witcher and the Superman and stuff. And it's like, well, I just watched Arcane and it's so good. But in a British accent.
Oh, what a guy.
But
all right.
All right.
Next segment, we got Jeremy with I Have Thoughts.
Oh, yeah. I have some thoughts. Thoughts are coming out of my head here. It's good. So, my first thing, I think it's a really, really good the way they told the story. I think a lazier show would have skipped the whole first part where they were kids and just had everybody start with kind of a dark past and thrown in an odd flashback here and there, like a bunch of cheesemos. And they didn't do that, and that's pretty good. It made you sit there and watch all those children die, which is, I was gonna say nice, but that's clearly wrong. But so, next thing I have written here, we can't pretend that the action wasn't stunning. It makes sense, hearing Colin say what he did about the animation style, because it is very reminiscent of Into the Spider-Verse, which did the exact same thing, where they would just hand draw over the 3D models that they made, because sometimes 3D models look stupid. And that's just what it is.
You heard it here
Can we
first.
interject in your segment a little?
Yes.
I would say, like, Into the Spider-Verse has one of the same, that scene where Miles Morales jumps and, like,
Oh, yeah.
changes from, like, that couldn't have been done any other medium.
Absolutely
like, that's not
not.
possible any other way than the way they did it,
Mm-hmm.
which is one of those scenes that I was like, this is beautiful.
Oh, yeah. I'm rock hard, too. It's great. I wrote this before I knew Clay's opinion. I wrote here, Clay has taken to lying, which is fun. Turns out he just didn't pay attention very closely, so that's pretty good too.
What was I lying about, or what?
About Vi choosing Caitlyn over her sister when she obviously assumed that her sister was dead.
Right, but it seemed to me in that moment that you could choose one or the other.
Yeah, you could choose your already dead sister or your not quite dead yet love interest.
Right.
So it's
Death yourself.
Not quite dead yet.
yeah.
Death yourself.
You could choose your dead sister and a dead you. I don't know. Not exactly one for one trade.
Mm-hmm.
If we're being honest
True.
with ourselves. So Powder is definitely Harley Quinn though. Like,
Oh, yeah.
everybody, it's a thing. I'm glad she didn't try to have sex with the bad guy with the weird eye, Silco.
So go.
Because that would have been weird and gross, which I guess is pretty on brand for Harley Quinn,
Mm-hmm.
but
It's kind of a deal.
still weird and gross. I like that they actually gave a concrete story reason why Powder and Vi couldn't like have a single adult conversation to like put together, like fix their relationship, which is something that a lot of other stories do. They just have people not be super specific about what they're talking about and have a misunderstanding just cuz. But in this, it's actually just like really well established psychological damage to all of the characters. And everything just gets too heated to really get fixed. I thought that was a nice touch. Nice is still the wrong word.
It's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we all forgot Caitlyn's name, although Cupcake.
I didn't.
Thank you for that.
I didn't.
Cupcake would have been an acceptable answer, though. So
True.
yeah, that's all I have for notes.
All right. Thank you, Jeremy. Was it snaps for Jeremy calling you? A few
for
snaps
Jeremy.
here. Good job, guys. Good job. All right. I attack, so I'll go first. I do agree the art style is awesome. I did really like that fight scene. However, at its conclusion, and I stand by this, as a viewer who watched the show one time and didn't like it as much as you, that's what it looked like to me. Seemed like she had a choice, and she chose her new love interest. I genuinely, when I watched it, that's what I saw from the story. Not making that up just to be antagonistic. I genuinely didn't like that part. I also felt that they did that throughout the show. I felt that there were several relationships that were there because they were convenient. For example, you needed your politician character to be corrupted, so you gave him another sexy politician that he like falls in love with, and he just kind of abandons his quest that I'm not saying that's the only reason. I'm not saying it's the only reason, but it is what happens. He abandons his quest.
No, it isn't.
Even 1,000
Can I
miles
finish talking
apart,
or
brothers
no?
can just.
If you want to know why I'm getting irritated, it's because I can't finish talking. I haven't even finished my point.
Said anything?
Yes, you did.
No, I
With
just
your
made a
face.
You said it
No,
with
you
your
started
eyes.
saying repeatedly, "No, it isn't."
Also,
That is
your
saying
words.
something.
Yeah, it was
So,
your eyes and words.
I am going on. I'm going on.
Yeah.
As a one-time viewer who got lost in all the overabundance of video game type action later in the series, I felt like it was more story forward early on, and then I felt like it turned into a bit of an action flick, which is very definitively not my jam. So I got bored with it. lost interest in the story as a whole. And then that kind of carried over into the character stuff. It stopped being as strong character building. I felt like the characters got a little bit cemented in where they were at a certain point in the story, and some of them ceased to grow. That is how it felt to me. The politician character being one. Don't remember his name. I'm not saying he wasn't developed enough to remember his name. I'm sure most people do. I do not. Didn't like it that much. Like the latter third of the story, I think was way more action forward, and I feel like a lot of the character motivations and stuff were a little less grounded in the characters that were built up throughout the show. That was my personal opinion.
I'm gonna say that I also only saw it once, so I mean, just throwing that out there a little bit. Yeah.
My real thoughts were mostly said. I don't know. We argued a lot, which is what a debate's for. So
Absolutely. It's all good.
I think the beauty of this show is the reason I've watched it 4 times isn't because I'm
super
obsessed
fan.
with it. I am a super fan, but here's the reason why I'm a super fan is because I watched it once and I was like, holy crap, there's so much to dive into here. I need to see it again. I've watched it from the perspective of Vi being the primary protagonist and Jinx, and Silco's obviously always the antagonist. But I was like, I need to watch it again. This time I'm going to watch it and I'm going to say Jace is the primary protagonist.
Jace, that's his name.
And when you do that, that's the beauty of the show is there's so much little subtlety, and it changes the story in small ways, in which when I started focusing on Jace, instead of the first 3 episodes being the most entertaining, that's what happens when you focus on Vi and Jinx. Those are the 3 that catch you. When you focus on Jace, now the middle section becomes the most entertaining because you care so much about Jace. He starts getting developed in there. And you realize why he gets in this relationship with the woman. It's not because he's abandoning his goal. It's because he would have literally lost his goal if he didn't have power, money, and influence. And she had power, money, and influence. And then he starts to fall in love with her a little bit because she's hot.
It seemed pretty fast.
But then by the
But I
end
mean,
of it,
she was hot the whole time, so.
she was hot the whole time. But by the end of it, he's climbed the ladder, and you start to see him be like, is this worth it? Did I do the right thing? And that is character growth if I've ever seen it. But then here's the cool part. I was like, okay, I'm going to watch it a 3rd time. And I'm going to pick one side character to focus on as the primary protagonist and see if it does the same thing. And it did. If you watch this show with Victor as the primary guy, Victor's the one with the crutch.
Yeah.
He's
I identified with Victor a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Victor is so well done and so dated. Because you could watch the show and say it's Jace, Vi, and Jinx. That's your guys. But Victor's story is just as robust, just as deep. He kills the only woman who kind of had a crush on him on accident. He's this underdog who's done everything he possibly can to become more than that, and has ruined his life because of it. And I am so excited to see Victor season 2. And that's most of the characters in this show. I'm I am psyched to see where you go because your season 1 was so freaking good. And Caitlyn's the same. I haven't watched it with her in mind. Maybe I'll watch it a 5th time and say Caitlyn's the main character now. But
Do it.
Caitlyn's relationship with her family, Caitlyn's relationship with Vi, Caitlyn's struggle between duty and love and familial ties, but also rebellion because she doesn't really believe in what her family stands for. I could get behind that. It was awesome. And then at the heart of all of this is Silco, who is just so good. The voice actor who voiced him, Silco just bleeds beautiful protagonist. I loved him. Antagonist, sorry.
Hey, he's the protagonist of his own story.
They all are.
Well, yeah, he's an antagonist who actually has a reason to be an antagonist. I don't think I would resort to the things he resorts to, But when he gives his spiel, when he talks about his motivations, I'm like, yeah, you've been like kicked down in the mud, drowned by your best friend.
Yeah,
Like,
the disillusioned freedom fighter. He's another trope.
Thrown aside, you're a disillusioned freedom fighter. But I actually believed you because, you know, the same year, Captain America TV show, Falcon and the Winter Soldier tried to do the same crap and did it awful.
Well, yeah.
And like, so I saw this comparison of like, here's this same character written terribly, and here's Silco, same character written impeccably well. And
Here's one thing we didn't mention: the music. I thought the music killed it. Like, this show would not. I would not have liked the show as much as I did if it weren't for the music. I think every time there's music in the show, it's so perfect. Like, they put a lot of work into picking exactly the right music for each scene.
Yeah, and that's editing too. They edited to the downbeats and everything really well. The fight scenes fit really well with the songs.
Yeah.
I think everything
Jinx
semantic
Echo
about the
fight.
show is brilliant.
Yeah.
The Jinx Echo fight is
That fight's awesome. That's one of the best anime
will
fights
say-
of all time.
I will say though, Colin, if I were to have rolled the lower dice, if I were to have gotten that one, the one thing I was going to critique is that they literally just like put in an Imagine Dragons music video to like episode 6, like in the middle.
I mean, they literally did that, yeah.
What the hell? is this?
Look, sometimes
Like, I know these guys funded this project, but come on.
Hey, it's a fun crossover.
sometimes you just want your Imagine Dragons to become literally dragons.
Yeah. I thought that was I thought that was a nice crossover.
Yeah, it's fun.
Why not? You know, I don't know. I don't think it helped how much you hyped this up to me. Like, I was going into it expecting it to be the best thing of all time, and it definitely wasn't to me. But I'm a tough critic. I don't like action movies, and once something becomes action forward, I get bored like really fast, and I can't really help that. And this does do that.
No, he's a liar. No one listened to him.
See,
Arcane becomes action forward. It really does.
If you hate action, you might not.
I mean,
love this
It
show.
100% does. You're
I
a
mean,
person who
I
likes
don't
action.
think
I
it
don't think you
does.
see it as that.
That's where I'm saying, like, I'll argue against that. I don't think it really does. Like, it's built in 3 sets of 3. It's 3 mini movies essentially, and each mini movie has a centralized action scene, but it's not the focal point of it. First part of 3 is the end one where Jinx blows up the bomb.
Mhm.
Second part of 3 is when Vi and Jace go to the underground and like take down Silco's whole operation. That's that big action scene. And then the third one is Jinx versus Vi and the rocket explosion. Like, each one has one.
So you've watched this 5 times. You need to think of it from the perspective of someone who watched it one time. It feels
That's what I'm saying. No.
no. I'm telling you how it looked to me, dude. It became very action forward to me. Very action forward, and I think a lot of the character development fell by the wayside.
see,
I
as
think
a person,
some of them continue, like Victor. What?
See, as a person who also only has watched it the one time thus far, the action actually seemed very spread out and not the main focus of the entire series. And each of the main, fights that do end up happening are like the result of, are built upon a foundation of character interactions and characterizations.
Mhm.
So to me, they didn't like slog down anything. They just sort of, became the embodiment of the whole metaphor of the plot or whatever.
Hmm.
I can see Clayton's point though, because we are different in that. And I watch a lot of action films, and there's differing levels of importance for different kinds of genres of movie. And I think that action films, the most important thing at the top of the pyramid is pacing. And I will say Arcane has impeccable pacing, and so maybe that's where I'm losing, because its pacing was so good, I didn't notice the amount of action scenes.
I mean,
because they were paced. Whereas like the difference between Michael Bay's Transformers and John Wick is a lot on the pacing, is that Michael Bay doesn't give you time to breathe. and John Wick does. It gives you the exactly the moment, a good action film, exactly the moment as an audience member when you're like, I need a break. The break happens. That's a good action film. And like, I think Arcane does that, and maybe it does that so well that I didn't notice how much action was in it. But
yeah, I mean,
whereas a person who doesn't,
if you draw comps, right? I mean, it's not a movie or it's not a series that's supposed to be sort of like character heavy. You know, I basically, like, another show is Dota Dragon's Blood, which is also based on a video game that is literally like League of Legends and Dota are both. I mean, League of Legends is a complete ripoff of Dota, Defense of the Ancients, and so like, but if you look at Riot Games, which is the publisher for League of Legends, like, they've transformed just a copycat game into an entire IP that is massively popular. And like, Dragon's Blood was not a good show in the way that Arcane is a good show.
It was fun.
And like Castlevania, right? Castlevania, also a series on Netflix based on a video game, and like really couldn't hook me, but a lot of people really like it.
I like it way better.
What?
Way more. 100%.
Castlevania is so good.
Castlevania, I like way better than Arcane.
Arcane caught me in the first 2 episodes. Castlevania didn't catch me that hard until season. I love Castlevania, but it didn't catch me.
I've only watched a couple episodes of Castlevania. And I was like, this is all formulaic. This is really slow. Like, there's so much action. There's no characterization. It's like all the things that Clay doesn't like about Arcane. That's how I felt about Castlevania. But admittedly, that's the first like 3.
I don't think there's no. For the record, that is not what I said. I do not think there's no characterization in Arcane. I think just people get
too much action
towards the end, and I think people get concreted into their motivations and they stay there, and then it ends up taking them on a trajectory.
Well, I mean,
but also in defense of that, these are video game characters and they have to appeal to all the fans. So it's like a superhero movie that you're making about Batman, and then Batman's parents don't die. Like, they have to die.
Well,
like,
and see,
these characters do have to, all the backstory they did not have to do, and that was all original, basically. So they took these little descriptions that were short stories for all the characters in League of Legends, and then they built out that entire, sister relationship, and their father relationship too. I mean, those are just characters that you fight each other in a video game.
Well, and
so they pulled that, like, drew it out, and it was really impressive. But ultimately, those characters are stuck. They do have to be the characters that they are in the video game. Like all superheroes, they have to be that character.
So is that who Jace is in the video game? Because I very much felt that way with Jace becoming a warrior. I'm like, why?
Yes.
Why is Jace a warrior? What? Because he's in the video game?
Yes.
There's literally no reason for that.
Well, and Caitlyn,
literally no reason
like,
otherwise for it. He doesn't have martial arts training. He's a politician. He's an inventor. Those things are not warriors.
See, I think crucially, he's also like a massive nerd. And if a massive nerd built a massive hammer that makes things go boom, that massive nerd would 100% be using it at just the slightest provocation.
I mean, they do have to, the weapons
if you
that they
can be
get are
nerd
in
Thor,
the video game, so they have to use those.
I like to think that we could all have nerd Thor in us, but the plain and simple fact is we do not. I think a lot of I don't think he was raised to be like a fighter, It just didn't make sense to me. That was one of the character choices I didn't agree with. He's got technology, so he becomes a fighter, but I don't know. It didn't make sense to me.
I don't. The reason it made sense to me is because that's the spirit. Like, that's the reason why so many Olympic champions in wrestling are just like farm kids is because they weren't in the gym from age 5, like making themselves perfect physical specimens. Like, look at Rulon Gardner. He was just a cow farmer, a dairy farmer, who had work ethic and a reason to do good in sports because he wasn't from a well-off family. That's Jace. Jace has gumption. He has no standing to like make it high, so he has hardcore motivation and a reason to be good at things. And he makes it all the way to the eventing circle. And then when he comes to this challenge of like, oh, you have this rebel army and they need a leader, He's like, okay, this is me. I will be that leader, because if I don't have a reason for these people to continue to love me, they'll just boot me to the curb where I come from.
Sure. So the realistic choice would be for Jace to be a political leader. He's a politician. He's an inventor. Why does he become a barbarian? Because he's in the video game. Period.
He's a politician. No. The video game character is the motivation for what the character becomes in the show. They took someone who's like, okay, here's a warrior who's also a politician. Let's figure out how the hell that happened. And it's not like that hasn't happened in history.
No, that's true, but it didn't feel realistic to me.
Julius Caesar type. He's come up and he's like, I'm not going to just sit on this high horse and tell my men to go raid Silco. I'm going to go do it with them myself. It made sense to me. And
that's
you keep
fine.
saying like, oh, you've watched this 4 times, but like the reason I watched it 4 times is because I liked the first time so much.
Sure, and the reason I watched it 1 time is because all the things I'm saying. So like, that's not a defense for anything. That's just your opinion.
No,
I'm just saying my opinion. But this is what I'm trying to say. He's a warrior in that show because video game.
I don't agree with that.
That's fine.
Because video game, yes, they had to make him a warrior, but they made him. It's not okay. He's a warrior now.
Doesn't he go toe to toe with Vi? I don't remember.
No, he fights alongside Vi.
And who does he fight?
And then they do kind of turn on each other, but
cronies.
But
They
I
just
don't think they ever come
cronies.
to blows.
They never fight.
Okay, that's fine. My question, the reason I'm asking is because he gets a powerful hammer, and suddenly he can just fight a whole army, him and Vi, by himself with no martial arts training. Not a fan.
They literally have like a whole army of side soldiers, and he takes on a bridge of 3 people. That's the fight scene. Like, he doesn't take on a whole army. They raid like a drug cartel.
I seem to remember him taking on lots of people at some point in the show.
3.
Not that scene. Is there another scene in the show where he takes on a lot of people?
But also, it's
Jace
like
fights once with the hammer. 1 time.
Okay.
It's also like
Well, it's
kind
the
of
only thing I
the
remember.
Tony Stark sort of principle. He built the thing. He created it. He's probably going to know how to use it better than anybody else.
Sure, that's fine.
He just doesn't
Because-
trust anyone with the power.
That too.
That's the only.
Both
That's the
of those
reason he
things
does
are
it.
very consistent with his.
He feels like it's going to
characterization
fall
of the
into
show.
wrong hands.
Like I'm saying, sure, but he still becomes a warrior. It just feels like cuz video game. That was my take on it.
Also,
Seemed like cuz video game
because
to me.
he's established to feel like a sense of responsibility for what's going on, because he wants to save the world because he feels like he has to. I guess. I don't know. I haven't rewatched it yet.
I guess so.
Yeah. Also,
guess
in his
so.
defense, I mean, the show does a good job at showing you here's the city before their invention, and here's the city after, and it's completely changed. Like the technological level, the wealth, the inequality, that all is clearly completely different. So, and the show does a good job of that, compared to other
That's
shows.
another thing. Another thing I'm going to say one thing I really enjoy, and then one critique, because I do think it's fair to give a critique of a show that I obviously love. One thing I really like too is the world and the subtlety of motions, which happens a lot. And I love slow movies, which is weird because I also like action movies, but slow burn movies, small little things that show you characterization. I think Arcane has a lot of those. I think the biggest example is between Soka's like right-hand woman and the guy that like tries to portray him, which I admittedly have forgotten their names, but the guy that tries to betray him and her have that coffee meeting, and just the motions that like he makes and the motions she makes with lighting her cigarettes, and the way he like flicks his lighter down, and like that tells you everything you need to know about him. And like the world is like that. Every little thing in it is like, I know this place intimately because of the things they put in. My one critique is I must have.
Of course you did.
Yep, there's
I
no
have-
critiques.
There's no critique. No, I do have critiques.
Thoughts?
I agree there's lots of those moments. I think Arcane is really well written. I do. I think most of them happened for me earlier on in the show. Later in the show,
Clay loves the early bits.
Not always.
Well, the first
It seems
first three
we've had 3 examples now.
Yes, we have. Yes, we have. That's true. Yep.
Your boy loves some setup.
All right. Well, I
love
guess
that.
I'm just an idiot. I'm wrong. Arcane is awesome. Yeah, that's everybody loves Arcane except for me, and that's fine.
See, I get your perspective if you get locked into seeing Vi and Powder as the main characters when the rest of the series is more of an ensemble cast.
That's not what it is. But I appreciate.
Well, ensemble, not in the sense that they're whatever it's called, where you have
No, I don't.
a bunch
I
of
don't mean
different
your
protagonists from
terminology.
different perspectives.
It's not about that for me. It's not about that for me. It's the fact I just do not think the character development is as on point as everybody else seems to think it is, for all the reasons I have said. That's my opinion, and I'm sticking to it. Boom.
I'm really irritated with myself that I lost it because it was a good critique. It was something that bothered me the whole time.
So I think we can take away from this.
Colin, what were you talking
no
about?
critiques whatsoever.
Colin, what were you talking about before I jumped into my
Oh, how the world changed over time. How dramatically the city changes based on their inventions.
With
and
the portals?
Yeah.
inequality
Yeah.
and... Yep.
Yeah.
Silco's sort of, the sort of strangling, drowning experience was a little bit fast in
I think a
comparison
lot,
to
yeah.
the stuff that was early on. I mean,
And that's
so
what I-
definitely, like Clay's saying, like later on in the show, there's definitely a lot of like, okay, now we're going to establish a little more backstory for Silco. And we only have 2 minutes to do it as opposed to like, Vi and Jinx.
I remembered.
And the same with their father too. When their father comes back, I thought, that was very
I
quick,
did remember.
a
Mhm.
little too fast.
I think one of the things, and I don't know if this is something that like subconsciously you saw, Clay, but we've had a lot of conversations where we don't like when shows don't have super high stakes of death.
Mhm.
And I do think that is one of Arcane's biggest problems. Is like as soon as like the third episode was like, oh, we're okay with killing people, but as soon as like Echo survived the fight with Jinx,
Yeah.
I was like, okay, if they're like a named character from now on, I think they're pretty safe.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mentioned that in passing. Yeah.
That's like for me the superhero trope.
That's the biggest
at
that
work.
is the
Like they're
biggest
not
problem I
these
have.
main characters literally can't die because
They're in the game.
we have action figures and
Mhm.
characters, and we want people to use the
That's
store to buy
someone's
the
favorite
outfits.
character. That's someone's favorite character that you're killing right now.
Exactly.
You think
Yeah.
twice about
That's
that.
for all of them.
I
Yeah.
think
sure.
I'm pretty sure my viewing experience was benefited by not knowing who was in the game and who wasn't.
But you still
But yeah,
do it.
same.
Yeah.
they absolutely
Yeah, I played the game, so it was all
did not-
spoiled. I was like, when is she gonna get the shark rocket? Yeah.
I was just waiting
I
for Vi
did
to
the shark
get those
rocket.
big things and just punch people.
Yeah.
I was hyped for that.
Also, I think they did an awesome job with Vi, by the way.
So
Like making
yeah.
actually a female character who is like, yeah, she could definitely beat the crap out of any dude for sure.
Sure. Yeah. And I think, Colin, you actually helped me kind of nail down what I've been trying to say the whole time. It is about the speed and the pacing, I think. Because, like you said, they spent 3 episodes to establish Powder's trauma. And then I feel like a lot of the relationships happen much more quickly, much more jarring. Major choices are made in what, to me, felt like way more like split-second decisions. They weren't exactly split-second, but they seemed to like be massive changes in characters that happened really quickly.
Yeah.
Like the relationship with
I would
Caitlyn.
definitely agree. with
That happened over a way shorter amount of time than Powder's trauma, which is how they established the show, right?
Yeah.
And the same with the relationship between the 2 politicians and him abandoning Victor. That was a little more of a slow burn, but I just felt like there was a lot of things that seemed to happen really quickly because they seemed convenient for the story later on in the show compared to earlier on,
Yeah,
where they
that's fair.
really set things up.
Especially in comparison to how much care and attention Vi and Powder's backstory got. Everything that doesn't reach that level, even if it's good, feels lacking in comparison with the way the rest of the story was told.
not to
Yeah, I wanted to know more about Echo.
Yeah, I
not to leave
kind
with
of
more
do,
argument,
actually.
but I will have to say this is one I can't nod and say like I see that because I don't. I just don't. I think Vi and Jinx are the first mini movie. Jason Victor are the second mini movie, and then the third mini movie is a conclusion of both their stories. And I think if you rewatch it with Jace as the main protagonist, you'll see that because it really did do it well. Very good job of establishing his arc, and I think they both get satisfying conclusions.
I think one thing
I don't.
No, agree.
In League of Legends, one things that they started with in the video game was obviously good and obviously bad characters. Like good and evil is very much a good and evil game. And that's something that they've struggled with over the years to overcome, because clearly they want to be more complicated. They don't want that trope anymore. They want to make more complicated characters, but they're starting from a perspective of a game that was very much that way at the beginning. You have the high elves
Fight game.
and the dwarves and very much the good characters, and then you have the demons and the necromancers and
Pretty much going to be evil. Yeah.
right. So they've struggled with that over the years, trying to create stories where they're breaking out of that mold.
Yeah, it's hard to have a good necromancer.
It is. They did a good job though. Silco is a well developed character, so he was a lot of fun.
I think too, we'll probably talk about this show in the future, but I don't like Andor as much, but I do like Andor. But I think it's kind of the same thing with that as anything that's nostalgia, which we're overloaded with freaking nostalgia these days, has to actually make me care about the characters more. And Arcane did that with League of Legends characters, just like I feel like Andor does that with characters like Mon Mothma, and shows like Controversial Opinion, maybe shows like Kenobi don't. I didn't give a crap.
Kenobi sucks.
In fact, I like Obi-Wan Kenobi less after watching the show.
Me too. Yeah.
That's what I think.
Is that another show head to head?
Maybe.
I don't want to do
Kenobi.
Kenobi. I don't want to. I'm not finishing Kenobi. There's no way I'm finishing that. It's just boring as snot.
All that to say, in a saturated, in a media world that's saturated with member berries.
If you don't know what those are, that is a South Park reference. If you're like not 20, you probably don't know that reference. It's a reference to bringing back things just because they were cool when you were a kid, basically, and saying, remember berries?
In a media world that's saturated by those, I love to see things that are built on tropes and nostalgia, but make them better. And I think Arcane did that.
All right. How many beers do you need, Colin?
What?
How many beers to enjoy Arcane?
Ooh, put Arcane on and just get one lovely hazy IPA,
All right.
Sounds great.
Jeremy?
Hey, turn it on.
By the way, one is good for anyone who didn't listen to the last episode.
Oh, yeah. This is our new ranking system for
best?
fermented fiction.
Golf.
It's golf scores, sort of. It's a beer score. How many beers do you
Presumably
need
one is
to
good.
enjoy it?
Yeah, to enjoy.
So less is good, in theory. Unless a movie's enjoyment is heightened by more beers, I guess that means it's not good when you're sober. So yeah, less is good.
When we get to my ranking, we're going to realize how chaotic this system is. But
That's kind of what I was just trying to say. I also...
Jeremy, go on.
Oh, yes. I'd say, to borrow a phrase, it is a good time, no alcohol required. However, I would, of course, take a good glass of just the moonshiniest, underground, whatever you can pour into my Yahtzee shaker.
I mean, they drink a lot in the show, so you should drink whatever they're drinking.
Something
in the show.
frothy with little bits floating in it.
Yeah.
Goldschlager?
Well,
Yes.
that's for
Carbonated
but then there's
Goldschlager?
also, they have the high class.
Yeah, just
Salt Bay.
Got
You
a
have
salt
brandy
band.
when Jace is in there.
oh yeah. Well, you want a different one for each pair, each set.
How many beers?
Yeah, what do you got?
Well,
You getting annihilated or what?
I think if you watch this whole series in one sitting and you start drinking a 30-pack at the start, it'll be perfect. Because for the first 3 episodes, it's nice to be sober and paying attention while they develop some characters. And then for the rest, where it becomes a roller coaster, you should be drunk. So you can get that sense of vertigo that the brilliant art and musical composition inspires. That's what I say. 130-pack,
You gotta have a
but you
little
have to
smoke
do it
for
in that
Imagine
sequence. Yeah.
Yeah.
My ranking again is going to prove how chaotic our ranking system is.
Very chaotic.
You watch the show with me, stone cold sober, and I'm going to be silent and paying attention, occasionally tapping you on the shoulder and be like, "Watch this part. This is so good." You watch this show with me. You watch this show with me, absolutely plastered, and you're going to leave because I'm going to be like, "This is the scene I'm talking about. Okay, this is when Jason really turning into Jace." Okay, so yeah, stone cold sober or
That's what I was hoping for. You know,
But no in between.
Okay.
Travis 5 in. Just it's so sad that this
Yeah,
happens.
yeah.
Like
I kind of
what Victor does.
Victor is awesome, by the way. Victor is the best character.
see. I want to watch it with Travis plastered, where Heimerdinger is his point of focus.
Oh man, that
Oh, hey.
Fifth watch. Heimerdinger's the main character.
All right. All right.
The true.
I'm telling you though,
Heimerdinger.
4 whiskeys,
Snaps for
4
Heimerdinger.
whiskeys deep, Jinx and Echo fight. I'm crying.
Absolutely. The Jinx and Echoes fight is super epic. Super epic. Really cool.
Right.
I will agree with
There you
that.
go. Clay says it. Arcane, really cool.
Yeah.
The Jinx and Echo fight. All right. That'll do it. Thanks for watching Fermented Fiction. Listen to me and Travis yell at each other like brothers do. Thank
They
you,
never take anything
Jeremy
personally.
and Colin, for being here, for making things work on a technical level. Thank you, Arcane, for existing. A lot of people are happy about it.
Thank you, Special Brews.
Yeah, thank you, Special Bruce.
And Cascade Riders.
Thank you, Cascade Riders, for being our sponsors. And yeah, we'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Later.
Goodbye, people.